The Virtual Conference Live Talks is the brainchild of Dov Benyaacov-Kurtzman. It was initially developed as an emergency education channel to help professionals and general public manage their emotional and psychological response to the pandemic of 2020 by hosting the world's leading psychologists, researchers, and authors, and providing a platform for Nano Live workshops. It is now expanded into becoming a showcase for people to share their work and ideas in order to educate and inspire us to follow our own personal paths of value. Now please welcome your host, Dov Benyaacov-Kurtzman.
Wow. Hello and welcome back to the virtual conference live talks. Myself, Dov Benyaacov-Kurtzman. And it's been a while. We've had a whole series of ACT leading personalities from all over the world. Basically, as the introduction said, due to the pandemic of 2020. And now we're kind of moving into a different stage in this 2020 drama. And I thought that I had actually been around most of the ACT personalities until I came across very recently another amazing ACT personality. Nikita, or Nick Kotlarov, and he is an ACT psychologist, ACT psychotherapist, a coach. In fact, he has so many different qualifications that I'll actually, as I always do, let them introduce themselves. But in his website, for instance, he has an amazing list of memberships of organizations. In talking to him and trying to get to know him before this interview, I discovered also that, he's a man who has come from different places. He's Russian, he's got Israeli connection, Australian. And I find always that is fascinating because it enriches the person, and he's bringing things from all sorts of different places. And going through also the treatment interests of his, we have lots of things in common, especially when it comes to psychosis and schizophrenia, where I was trained originally. And, it's always a pleasure for me to meet somebody new. And as soon as that happens, I want to bring them to you, because that's basically what this is all about, is trying to introduce you as much as possible to new people and new interests. Okay, so without further ado, enough of me talking. Let's bring Nick in from the green room and meet him. So, hello, Nick.
Hi, Dov. It's lovely to be here. Thank you for having me on the show.
Wonderful. Well, already we've got comments coming in. Norman Evans from Canada says, great to have the virtual conference back. And yeah, and you're leading that into a new era where we are just now. And we'll get to that in a minute. But for people who don't know you or are not familiar with your work, just in a second, this is not a regular podcast where we kind of just talk, and this is more of an experiential kind of nano workshop, as I called it. But just to give people a kind of a round picture of who's talking to them, just give us who you are.
I'm a psychologist, and I guess that's how people know me mostly on a professional level. I've opened my own practice in 2007 and been around for a while. So this is well into thousands of clients. But I guess the more kind of deeper stuff is I'm a dad. I've got 3 wonderful children who I love dearly. And I think a lot of what I've learned about humans' work is from my clients. A lot I learned from my kids, and a lot I see kind of from myself and watching my loved ones as well.
Well, that's wonderful. And I'm certainly going to mention all these gorgeous instruments in the background as well. But just before that, what is your connection with ACT? How did you get into it? I understand that you've been in it for a while. So what got you there? What was that about?
Into psychology. Oh, what a lovely question. Look, and I changed that answer. I honestly, throughout the years, because I don't know, ultimately. But here are some of my musings. I initially started studying criminology. I thought it was fascinating, and I have a military history and some enforcement history in Israel. And I thought, I'd love to understand the mental kind of psychological aspect of crime. And very quickly, I realized that the psychology itself, human behavior, was the fascinating thing. So I finished criminology, finished a behavioral science degree, and then finished a psychological science with honors degree to sort of actually start practicing. And very quickly realized that what you do at uni is so little compared to when you then actually encounter and start experiencing or your own clients. So it's an amazing world, bottomless.
Wow.
Oh, no, let me add one more thing.
Okay.
And it's true that heal thyself is absolutely true as well.
Oh,
I think
wonderful.
a big part of it was trying to get some sense of control of what that thing between my ears was trying to do.
And that's an ongoing project.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, with all of us. I thank you for your authenticity. That's amazing. And what about ACT though? How did you come across that in your journey?
Because everything else didn't seem to rise to the occasion. I was very lucky that one of my tutors was an ACT practitioner, and she took us through an exercise. Actually, it was a raisin exercise, and I remember being blown away. I remember kind of, and it was so not academic. It was so experiential, and it took us outside of the verbal world and into kind of our bodies. It was wonderful. And once I started practicing, I went back and scheduled a session with an appointment with her saying, look, what did you do? How did this happen? Now, where do I find out more? And she said, acceptance, commitment therapy, and mindfulness-based interventions. And I remember thinking, well, that doesn't sound scientific at all. What is this? What does this sound? And started reading a little bit about it, started attending courses and regular meetings. We have a lovely ACT community here in Brisbane, Australia.
Wonderful. Sounds amazing. And you mentioned it, the fact that it's experiential, and that's kind of what caught your eye and caught your experience. You get to more of that. So talking about experiences, there's no way that I can go on in this conversation without asking you about all those wonderful instruments behind you. So what is that?
So very quickly, I realized that whatever you're delivering, if you want to help someone, whatever you're delivering needs to be fun. And the simple behavioral kind of principle behind this is, if it's fun, you're gonna do it again. It just increases the likelihood you'll engage again. And if it increases the likelihood that you engage again, it increases your skills. If it increases your skills, it will bring more rewards, which will increase the likelihood you will engage again, and so on. It's kind of a snowball of good juju. So I started using some music and a little bit of fun and acting, and then this a whole new creative world that I discovered. And with the instruments behind me, look, I didn't know what I was going to play. I didn't know what it was going to sound like. And I started trying different guitars. I'm not wealthy, but I've got good hands. So I got some broken instruments and fixed them up. And I found that I actually find it enjoyable. And I've been doing it for some years. So some of my favorite instruments stayed with me. The other ones found a new home.
Wow. And you incorporate this into your practice?
Into my practice, and more importantly, I write, produce my own music. I go by Dr. Carrot in the musical world. You can find me on Spotify and SoundCloud, Facebook. Dr.
Carrot. Oh, I like that.
Dr. Carrot.
Maybe we'll get to what that is in a minute. But okay, what's the carrot?
Well, to start off with, it's hard to see now, but I'm originally a redhead.
Right.
One. Two, I do believe in the power of carrots over sticks, meaning rewards over punishments. Again, if you're doing something motivated by something that you value, driven by the reward of that, the reward means you're likely to engage again. If you're likely to engage again, and leaves a healthy person. And the biggest part of the carrot versus stick. Look, sticks work without a doubt, and if you're anything like me and you send the wrong email, there's this sense of and that visceral kind of fear that comes from history of maybe punishments, of reprimand, of kind of punitive sort of motivation. Look, it works, but it's so crude. It's fast and it's intense, and we kind of go. But it lacks sophistication, it lacks flexibility, and reaches a ceiling very quickly, meaning that, look, like a proverbial donkey, if I kind of motivate myself through, oh, bad Nick, you stupid, and so on, then, look, I'm just not going to respond. Leaves a very battered person. And the dearest part of that to me is that we can lose trust with ourselves. If I'm the guy who motivates myself with sticks, I can lose trust with me. And the opposite is also true. Leaves a healthy person. If I'm the guy that motivates myself with my values and the reward that comes from acting on those, well, I grow trust with myself. Hence, Dr. Carrot. And to top it all off, I didn't come up with that. One of my clients had me in their contacts as Dr. Carrot. And so I said, I'm stealing it. And they were very happy with me stealing it.
Wonderful. So again, Norman Evans coming in saying, I like the metaphor of sticks and carrots and Dr. Carrot. And I love it as well. And the whole idea of course, learning with more, fun and rewards. I see this all the time, there's a lot of people talk about, difficulty learning. Oh, I can't learn. I can't do this. And children, but then you see them with games. Wow. And they learn instantly with games. Instantly. I mean, and very complicated things as well. I mean, even though it's through gaming and through fun, they are learning actually extremely complex and difficult things to do, but yet it's almost comes so easily to them, so I love that idea that you're bringing forward. Go on.
Absolutely. I think we forget chemically learning a new thing is reinforcing. Biologically, for our bodies, learning a new thing is reinforcing. So since we're kids, we get into trouble, finding out things we should never have opened in the first place. So yes, you're right.
Absolutely. And look, this whole virtual conference started in the beginning, the height of this whole pandemic 2020. And we're kind of moving into a different stage now. At the beginning, when it first started, we were all basically in shock. We didn't really know what was going on. Everybody was being kind of locked up in their rooms. There was that stage of people started to make funny videos and do all sorts of strange things just to kind of entertain themselves. And then that moved on to a different stage where, people were just kind of settling into their own space for a while. And then as we move towards possibilities of coming out of it, then there was this anxiety of, well, will I have any work at the end of this kind of extended period? And then there's all the confusion that we're kind of going through now is, are we on lockdown? Are we going back to lockdown? Are we on, we're on the verge of a world recession, but we don't really know yet how that will play out. Is there going to be another thing in a few months? We're starting to get even more into a very anxious and unknown pathway. And the whole idea of this virtual conference was to bring to not only professionals, but the general public, and to expose Nick to the general public that we can through social media and through this connection that has become very important this year, because if with all the physical distancing, social distancing, whatever way you want to call it. But this idea is to bring people together, to try and create a sense of community. If somebody was coming to you now, and how did you get first of all, how did you personally get through all this?
This is a rough one, and it's rough. I mean, we're speaking right now. I've come out of isolation. It's not self-isolation. I guess it's called self-isolation, but I was commanded to isolate. See, my partner was we're in Australia, so in Queensland, they've published zones of people, areas where people who were diagnosed visited and the dates that they visited. Well, my partner visited one of those places, shopping center, a day after, and she had some flu-like symptoms. And so we've all gone and tested ourselves. And the way it works here in Australia is that you have to, after you tested, you are treated as a diagnosis until your test comes back negative. And so only today we were able to come out of self-isolation. So yeah, it's pretty rough. And I think life is pretty rough. And I mean, in my own personal life, and I'm only in my late 40s, I mean, I've seen anti-Semitism, and my dad was a Jew, so we lived in Siberia. I've seen how rough this can be. And during the perestroika, the Iron Curtain collapsing, I mean, we literally escaped was becoming the pogroms, the new kind of search of names and addresses of Jews were plastered on light poles to help people find where Jews live. And then Gulf War in Israel, and then military moving, and every move is kind of starting from scratch. I guess what I'm trying to say, lives are difficult. This pandemic is one of those examples, but shortly, I'm in Australia again, shortly before the pandemic, we had horrific fires. And I say all this, and I'm reminded that I'll look at my life, and I sometimes like to reminisce, and it's kind of a pleasurable kind of experience to go back. But then when I think of some of the hardship I went through, and I look at my parents and their hardships, and they were born, my dad was born shortly before the Second World War. My mom was born immediately after. I mean, the world that they inherited was a very rough world. And when I say that, I'm immediately reminded that, well, if we go one generation back, like say my mom's parents, and that this is a generation that fought in both. So her dad fought in both the First and the Second World Wars. And some of the stories I've heard are horrific. And I don't know how far back into sort of generations I need to go, but what it appears to me, it appears to me that we're actually managing to get the world a safer and a safer place. And I think we've really managed to address things like, hunger to a large extent, disease. I guess we all sitting, and I think most of us have faith that there's going to be a vaccine. There's some very serious efforts toward that. And war, I mean, the sort of conflict that we're experiencing these days compared to, I mean, Second World War wasn't that long ago, less than a century. And what I'm trying to say is it's a rough life. And whilst we're getting it better and better and better, there is still a very difficult experience. And I don't know how many of the people who are viewing this have witnessed birth. I mean, we are born through risks and pain. Many of us go to the hospital to mitigate some of the risks and pain. And then it goes on. I mean, if you think about youth and the powerlessness of youth, and then we lose that, and we lose youth, and we lose our innocence and become disillusioned. I guess we work hard, and life can give us sometimes things we didn't expect, we didn't want, and things that we wanted dearly and deeply may never come to us. And I think sorrow, anxieties, and fears seem to be the response that we can have when the world turns in a way that we didn't want. And to answer your question, I guess, Dov, yes, of course, people ask about it. And we're talking about anxieties during the pandemic. Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Wow. Amazing. You've mentioned just in your personal history there a number of these kind of words that jump out, Siberia. Wow.
No, I love saying it.
Right. I mean, that's like for people who, grew up like myself, Siberia is like maybe still is, I really don't know, but it was like the world's or Russia's prison, right? It's a big massive prison. So I don't know really. Cold, extremely cold, and like, in the middle of nowhere prison. But I understand people do live there.
People do live there. A lot of people live there. Novosibirsk, the city where I grew up, Novosibirsk is the third largest city in Russia after Moscow and Leningrad. So it's not. We're not talking about some people living there. And yes, once upon a time it was kind of tucked away. But during the Second World War, what Russia did was take industry and academia and move it to Siberia to hide it from the front lines. So since kind of middle previous century, it's developed and grown quite significantly.
But it's still cold.
Oh, it gets very cold, yes.
Yeah. So we've got this. You mentioned both world wars. You mentioned hunger. There's a lot living. It's not necessarily that things happen. That's just par for the course. Living has its difficulties. Living has its challenges from a day-to-day basis. It's not something unusual. It's actually more usual than not. Things happen. And we're still around as an entity, human beings. We're still here.
Species. We're doing all right.
And so there is some sort of resilience in there. But here we are at the beginning of a kind of a new paradigm almost, because this idea of hopefully there'll be some sort of solution for it. But as we are at the moment, we are basically trying to hide from it, if you like. We're trying to close ourselves off and hide from, which is, as we are beginning to realize, is not sustainable for a long time. And we have to, as you said, as we are born, we take risk, and risk has to come into it. We have to mitigate the risks, of course, but you can't get rid of the risks. And what are some of the ways that you would pass on to people watching this, that you use yourself, in order to mitigate these fears, these anxieties, these uncomfortable places that life puts us?
So this is a complex question. Okay, let me see if I can do this. So I can't do this because there's two questions packed here. And so from what I understand, we are talking about risks which are kind of external. And if we talk about external risks and mitigating those, that's one thing, and a very important thing I find. But then there is another thing, and that's our own internal experiences, our own anxieties, our own sorrows, and our own kind of frustrations, and what goes into a basket we call pain. Now, pain as a fascinating thing that we can mix the two. We just took risks and pain and put them both, and we do that. And from what I understand, we're the only species who can treat our own internal experiences, our own pain, as a risk. And that's an interesting thing. So say if I have a risk in my world, a threat of some sort. Now my body is going to respond to that. I'm likely to freak out in some way. If I don't know, I have very few risks now, but let's say a burglar bursts into. So my body is likely to respond to that in some way, and some way usually falls into a crude but fast strategy of freeze, fight, flight, or fright. So fight, flight, freeze, fright. I pick freeze first because it seems to be the safest for us. Do less. Fight, flight, freeze, fright. Crude, not very sophisticated, but very fast. And let's call that freak out. And freaking out in response to external events is very useful. An interesting thing is that we do bundle our internal experiences, our own freaking out, as a risk. We speak of stress killing us. We speak of our anxieties as symptoms. We speak of depression as a disease. And an interesting thing then happens. Well, I don't want pathology. I don't want disease. And thank you very much. I don't want symptoms and so on and so forth. I don't want my stress to kill me. So now I'm stressed about stress. And we are the only species who can freak out about freaking out. Yeah.
and that freaking out about freaking out, I think, and your comments would be welcome here, can sometimes be scarier.
Absolutely. It's a closed cycle. It's in computer IT world, that's blue screen for you.
Right. Yeah, blue screen. When anyone gets a blue screen, that's the most frightening thing, especially today. Yeah. Yeah, the scared about being scared is scarier than the real thing, it seems.
And yet, who was it? I do believe it was Churchill who said, there is nothing to fear but fear itself. And the crowd goes wild. Except for Nick. Nick goes, wait, what? No, don't tell them that.
How do we deal with that fear of fear then? What do you do practically? Let's get right down to nitty-gritty here, okay?
Very good. Very good. What do you do practically? Now, the psychologist, the scientist in me goes, oh, very good. Let's look into, well, what's the problem here? And the problem, the scientist of me in me goes, well, the cycle is clearly the problem. Ah, yes, we're on the... No, wait. If the cycle is the problem, so now I'm freaking out about freaking out, and I'm also freaking out about the cycle.
You just added.
We just added another level of freaking out to what we're already freaking out about. I guess in a way, it seems like the more problem solving we involve in response to our problem solving, and freaking out is a very good problem solving strategy in response to threats, to things we don't want in the world. So the more of that strategy we employ in response to that strategy, the more of it you will have. And so here is let's simplify it. And I'm very cognizant that we're going into very academic kind of discussion right now. It's not at all experiential. Are you okay with that?
So go for it experientially. Let's do an exercise if it's something that you think would be, because there's a lot of people watching here that the academic side is not really even interesting for them. But what is really important is, when they switch off this broadcast, right? What do they do?
It's a very good question. It's a very good question.
But while you're thinking about it, Christina's coming in. She's a psychologist, and she's obviously enjoying this conversation as much as me. What do we do? Teach us.
Very good. Look, very keen to find a magic pill and kind of feed it through the camera, and hopefully the magic will happen. Unfortunately, and then to pull out out of my sheath kind of this a wand and cure it, and it's probably a rather masculine perspective, because I think quick fix. I mean, I've seen some light bulb moments in my life. I've experienced some light bulb moments in my life. None of it is sustainable. It's wonderful whilst it's going on. And I did prepare an exercise for those who are watching, and it is going to be quite experiential. And I'm hoping everyone who's joining us has a piece of paper, maybe a pen, some implements, or if you're in front of your computer, maybe a document, or what I sometimes do is just address an email to myself and type stuff in. You're welcome to delete it afterwards, but I do want to engage your language in it. Now, but I do, sorry.
Wonderful.
Very good. I do want to respond to this need in something quick and fast and cover all and applicable to everything. Look, it seems to me that fast, exciting things are quite destructive. And inside of me, there still lives this young boy who wants to, looks at a sledgehammer and looks at a wall and goes, ooh, it would be like, let's make a day out of it. I mean, I don't know if you destroyed in your life, but taking and destroying something can be a lot of fun. And it happens very quickly, and you see immediate results.
Mm-hmm.
Constructive stuff, building. Say if you wanted to build a house rather than destroy it, it seems like you'd start with planning. So here's boring element number one. Then you go on to, purchase the right things, evaluating your plans, consulting with others, some more boring things. And then you're going to be putting one brick after another. And it's likely to be boring for some part. And it seems to me that nurturing constructive things in our life seem to take time. And I was going to say I raised 3 children. No, I'm still going. And it seems to me that the loving, nurturing thing to do is to put my thing on hold, the exciting thing, and be there with my baby quietly and watching. Participating, small inputs, just little by little by little. That's constructive. And it seems like we can build amazing things. We can build amazing relationships, build amazing houses. And it seems like it takes time, and it's amazing. But we can destroy it a lot quicker. And that stuff is so exciting.
Oh, I love that metaphor. I absolutely do. I'm going to take it. I'm going to use it. I think it's amazing because, when you're building, and that just even if it's a building, you're building a house or whatever, it becomes so frustrating also because, you might have this vision, you want to talk to the architect might say, well, that's just not going to happen. So you're going to get a lot of disappointment on what you thought was going to be, and it's just not available in the physical world. And then, you get all this designed, and then it comes to the finances behind it, and you're like, oh my goodness, it's going to cost that much. And so you have to start taking it apart and redoing it again. And then, of course, when the building happens, it always seems so slow. You just see the outline of the thing. There's an excitement there, but it's so slow. And so many possibilities for going wrong. So many. But you're right. When you take a sledgehammer or whatever, and you start whacking away and the adrenaline and everything's going, it's wonderful.
It's quick. So, there's instant gratification. People want to watch it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I don't have magic for you necessarily tonight. It's not likely to be very quick and catch-all and kind of one-size-fit-all. but I do want to take people through an experience, because I do believe that whilst academically, and that's how I was trained, it's fascinating. Human minds are amazing. It's to this day it excites me. But to actually take something out of it, we need to go through an experience. So let me know when you want me to kind of get folks prepared.
Yeah, go for it right now.
Go for it right now. Oh, how wonderful. So I do hope that all of you at home, and Dov, if you would like to join me as well,
Definitely.
please feel free. When I guide these exercises, I try to do as much of it as I can. And it comes kind of unites us, and we're kind of going to do something with your permission, of course, and something that is common, like our together thing that we will do. Now, I do encourage you to be comfortable. It's not a must. You could be standing up or sitting down. It is entirely up to you. I do encourage you to have a writing implement, and if you don't have one, whisper. I want you to engage your language. So I'll ask you kind of 3 questions. There will be 3 questions to which I will encourage you to use your language to utter some words to the sort of to answer my questions. And then once we have those 3 answers, I will invite you to take a bit of a meditative kind of imagery type exercise that will help you connect with what you are finding about yourself. And hopefully, if we do our a journey well, we'll end with something that offers you a continuation. Now, if you listen to this, you will get some information. That's wonderful. And if you're a practitioner, it might be something you've already encountered, or you might find out something new. But if you go through this with me, you'll actually have the experience. So I do encourage you to kind of see if you can give yourself into this.
Wonderful.
And I appreciate that. To start off with, I want to ask you 3 simple questions. 1 question: what's that one of those sorrows you lived through, or one of those sorrows you have in your kind of in yourself stored, and most of us have kind of have something in the ready. Maybe I wish I had I don't know, bit more money growing up, or maybe I wish my parents spent more time on working through the homework with me, or maybe I wish I was more attractive and smarter, stronger, fitter, faster. What's that thing that you wish maybe you didn't have to go through, or you wish you had? Like something that kind of deep and personal to you. Welcome to write it down or utter it quietly within your own privacy. A thing that sometimes comes up for you and it's kind of stored for you in your memory about, if only I didn't, whatever it was, if only my parents used less harsh discipline. Something difficult that you keep of yourself. See if you can connect with that, and see if you can kind of kindly look at this pain. I mean, you have pain, so do I, and so does everyone you meet. It's a shared human experience. The world can be rough from time to time, and I guess that's crazy. But the way we respond to the crazy, rough world can be very normal. We respond with pain, and I want you to kind of connect with your pain. What's that thing you wish didn't happen to you? What's that thing you wish you had and you don't? It's that thing maybe you had and lost and you wish you didn't. Write it down. Kind of notice it. Have a look at what you wrote, or kind of maybe heard yourself whisper. And I invite you to take one more step and answer one more question. Second question is, what is your belief about what that pain cost you? So maybe you wish you were more attractive, and then what? What would you, if you were more growing up in a richer home, then you would be more what? If your parents did spend more time on your homework, then you would be. And if you were, I don't know, had less harsh discipline growing up, then what did it cost you? This loss, this pain, kind of take a moment and write down. Or if you can't, then whisper. I want you to engage your language to kind of connect with, well, if only, my parents didn't leave me when I was very little, I would have, I don't know, more secure attachment, and maybe I had better relationships or better love life, or maybe if I was smart, I'd have a better career, or maybe if I was more attractive, I'd have more friends around me, and so on. Kind of connect with what you kind of fear this cost you. Connect with that thing that you're missing, that you wish you had, and only if it wasn't for that pain, then you would have had that thing. What is that? And now that you're connecting that, and kind of have a look at what you've written. And if you uttered it or whispered it, kind of take a moment to kind of notice what you hear or what you said. That thing, that cost, that's dear. This is dear and it is yours. Better career, more friends, more connected relationships, or love life, or these are the things that should give you the answer to the third question. This should give you at least a clue as to what you are truly yearning for. And it might be more career success. Maybe you're truly yearning for a deeper, more meaningful intimacy and connection with your loved one, friends, and maybe a joy with these connections, or maybe health, or kind of notice that the second answer carries a clue as to what you are yearning for truly. And I want you to write it down. It may very well be the same thing you wrote in number 2, or you may phrase it differently, or you may condense it from number 2, where it was, well, this is what it cost me. You might condense it to a small value that you cherish now. How do we know you cherish it? Because your body responded. Because there was pain. I do believe it's Kelly Wilson said that way. Pour our pain from the same vessel as our values. I do encourage you to kind of have this verbal in front of you and kind of consider the journey we just went through started from pain. There's something you missed out on. Something that was hurtful and sorrowful, maybe, and that cost you. And that cost carries information. The number 2, cost, carries information about what you value truly. And I invite you now, whatever writing implements you've had, I'll invite you to put them down and kind of take a comfortable position. And I'll invite you to notice. We've been going through pain to cost to yearning. And I invite you to notice your body responds to pain, responds to your yearning. It responds to gravity. I mean, it's been here all along. There's nothing you need to do about it. I'm only inviting you to observe that your body responds just in this moment. And it's typical for us to kind of have preconceived ideas about gravity or our bodies. For this exercise, it doesn't really matter. I'm inviting you to look, to notice. Here, you have a body. It was here all along. There's nothing we need to do about it. And here, it responds. Notice what that's like, as if you've not felt it before, as if this is the very first time in your life that you have this opportunity. Your body responds to your pain and yearning, as well as it responds to gravity. Your body responds to your physical sensations, it responds to your breathing. It just is. There's nothing we need to do about it right now. You've been breathing this whole time. And what I'm inviting you to do is kind of notice. And do notice as if you've never breathed before, and as if it's the first time in your life that you have this opportunity. Kind of notice that the air rushes through your nostrils and past your sinuses and kind of down to your lungs. Notice that your physical body responds to that. There's nothing you need to do about that. It just is. Your body also responds to emotional experiences, responds to gravity, responds to physical sensations. And I do invite you to kind of approach it like you've never had physical sensations before. And let's take a moment, kind of notice everything that you can hear. And if you're anything like me, you probably have a whole bunch of preconceived ideas about the names of those sounds, preconceived ideas about what, I don't know, how good or bad your hearing is, or maybe ideas about whether it's a good or a bad thing in the first place that you can hear. For this exercise, it actually doesn't matter. We aren't here to judge, rate, assess, or evaluate your experience. Instead, I invite you to simply connect with it, kind of notice. I can hear. Just in this moment, kind of notice as the sound kind of enters your ears, travels down your ear canal and contacts your eardrum. There's nothing we need to do about it. It just is. All I'm inviting you to do is to observe it. Just in this moment. And in this one. And in this one. And as you are curiously observing how your body responds to your senses, I invite you to notice that there is a part of you that remains available to observe. Notice that you can notice. There's nothing we need to do about it. It just is. And notice your ears, your sense of hearing are kind of in your head alongside with your sight. And if your eyes are open, you probably see whatever light that's crossing your kind of eyes and contact your retina. If your eyes are closed, whatever light crosses that piece of skin that we call eyelids. And notice what it's like to have sight. There's nothing you need to do about it. It just is. And underneath your eyes, there's the nose, and it comes with a sense of smell. Nothing to do about that. Just observe. Just now. Only now. Sense of taste, touch. Notice that our bodies are responding to our sensations, physical sensations. It's been happening all along. There's nothing we need to do to stop or change it. Just observe curiously. And as we do, notice that there is a part of you that can observe. Notice your body responds to physical sensations. Yes. It also responds to gravity. Yeah. Also responds to breathing. And it responds to emotional experiences. I mean, you could be bored, or maybe you're curious. You might have an urge to finish this exercise, or a craving to do something else, or maybe you have a deep sense of connection. I mean, chances are whatever you're experiencing emotionally is a complex combination of many different experiences, and rather than trying to label them, I invite you to notice. Just observe. Where are those experiences located, for example? I mean, they've been here all along. There's nothing we need to do to change, but can you notice, like, do you feel them all the way through the top of your head down to your toes? Or does it end somewhere? And if it ends, I mean, is it a clear boundary? Curiously, I'm inviting you to notice, and does your emotional experience have consistencies? Gas-like, solid-like, or fluid-like experience? Just in this moment, without having to do anything about it, we are curiously observing what it's like for our bodies to respond to our emotional experiences without having to assess or label, without having to do. We are just noticing. And as you do, I invite you to notice that there is a part of you that can notice. And we're speaking of emotional experiences. I invite you to notice what experiences showed up for you before. The pain of losing something you really wanted, or experiencing something you really did not. That kind of clarified the part two, the question two, the cost of what that cost you, and kind of crystallized a little bit. Well, there is a value in it, and this yearning, this value, it's yours, it's deep. It's kind of our desires for, be it careers or relationships, be it better parenting, or being funner with friends. Kind of notice that desire inside of you that you found out through questions 1, 2, and then in 3. And I invite you to just allow your body to experience. We don't have to do anything about it. And if it's uncomfortable, and if you're anything like me, we'll try to control the discomfort, and we kind of tighten around it. But for this exercise, let's try to do something different. And instead of controlling, I'll invite you to allow it to happen. And instead of tightening, let's loosen. Let's free as much room in our body for this experience to be there without having to change it in any way. There, we missed out. And that pain points us in a direction of what we yearn for. Notice what that's like for you right now. Only now. We don't have to stop or change that. For this exercise, I invite you to observe your yearning. Let it be yours. Let it be something you desire deeply. And now, in this place, with your desire, with your yearning, let us make a commitment. Let us agree to do something with ourselves, something within the next 24 hours. One small thing that will take you one step in the direction of what you're yearning for. So if it's about your career, and maybe you're in isolation, you might pick up that book that might take your skills just a notch up. If it's about relationships, you might say something that builds. Might be a boring small thing, but you'll do it because it matters. If it's about parenting, if it's about friendships, if it's about you and your health, or maybe that skill that you always wanted to learn, let's make a commitment to ourselves. Let's make an agreement with ourselves. Let's promise ourselves that we will do that thing, small step, within the next 24 hours. And as you notice and clarify for yourself what that step would be, I invite you to prepare. Very soon, we kind of start noticing things that not only in our bodies and our private things, but also the environment around us. Very shortly, I'll be inviting you to open your eyes. And as you do, I'm going to ask you to write down the little commitment you made for yourself. Wherever you know and trust that you will find it, so maybe it's in your calendar, or maybe it's on your notepad, somewhere where you know that little commitment will be waiting for you when you need it within the next 24 hours. And I invite you to kind of open your eyes if they were closed, or kind of bring your attention and awareness back to your surroundings, and do what you do after a long period of not moving, and kind of be guided by your body. What does your body need? And give your body that thing, that gentle stretch. Kind of notice. Your body will tell you. Very good. And as we are back, I invite you to take your writing implement, or if you're in front of a computer, type it in your calendar, that commitment that you made with yourself, that dear thing, that dear yearning that is personal to you. What's that one thing you're going to do within the next 24 hours to take a step in that direction? No matter how small or boring it may be. That's how we build.
Wow.
Thank
Got
you.
my pad and my thing. I did it. It was actually quite emotional. So it's what's fascinating, of course, and you mentioned Kelly Wilson, and it's just two sides of the same coin. The pain seems to have here a purpose, and I think that is what comes out of it for me. Is it's not just pain for pain's sake. There's some meaning and purpose behind it. It's almost, obviously, we don't particularly like suffering pains, but in this, the way that you told it, the way that you framed it up there was, you know what, in certain extents, it might even be worth that pain to a certain extent, because I'm beginning to see what really is important to me. And so it gives me that clarity of what to
I'm
work.
really glad. I'm really glad.
And so I like that very much. And yeah, I like the writing down. It's something that I need to work on more. I want to, and in that sense, it helped, because writing down does help, I think.
Our language is a powerful tool, isn't it?
Oh, wow, so powerful. So
Absolutely.
powerful. And the more we begin to appreciate that, the more that it can work against us, but also very much for us if we know how to use it.
Very cool. Absolutely true. Very, very powerful. And it's with language and kind of what I'm hoping that we've done a little bit is move past the language as well. I think you mentioned looking through pain and discovering your yearning, and I think this is the two sides of the coin. I like that metaphor. They are two sides, and we when we try to numb one of them, we numb the other. We don't numb selectively, we numb them both. And when we connect to both, then we connect to both. The connection with our own pain, it's got purpose. Not purpose, that's our bodies telling us that we need something. This matters.
Wow, I think I could talk to you definitely all day, if not all week.
Me too. It's lovely.
It's been amazing, and all that's left for me to say is, Nikita Kotlarov, thank you very, very much for being a guest of mine on the virtual conference live talks. Personally, I've had a wonderful time with you and look forward to deepening our connection as we go on.
I appreciate it, Dov. Thank you so much for having me, and I appreciate the trust being here.
Thank you very much. So there you go, Nikita Kotlarov. What an interview, what an experience just being in his presence, even though it's virtual, it's almost not even important. It's just the fact that we were with him. And he's so far away, from where I am on the other side of the planet. And I'm very grateful for a medium like this, for a platform like this, so that I can actually come and be with people like Nikita Kotlarov, that in normal circumstances, it wasn't that long ago that just wouldn't be possible. And so I am so grateful to the platform. I'm so grateful to what we're doing now, and of course to Nikita Kotlarov, and thank you all that join in and that share this and watch party it and like it. This is a public service, and the idea is that we all benefit as much as possible. And so until next time, bye-bye.
Disclaimer, this show is not therapy, nor a replacement for therapy. Should you wish to inquire about therapy, counseling, life, or executive coaching, please contact Dov Benyaacov-Kurtzman at factcpfa@gmail.com, factcpfa@gmail.com. Dov Benyaacov-Kurtzman is a highly experienced psychotherapist, executive business coach, and author of the book, Mind Over Terror, 3 weeks, 2 cities, 1 mission. With over 10,000 hours of experience and academic degrees in government, law, clinical social work, and a postgraduate diploma in psychiatry with distinction, Dov has the background to help you. He's also available for public speaking and corporate training.